What you have here is a BMW F800 ST 2009. What I'm doing is giving the motorcycle a tune-up because when I'm turning this thing on, the idle is not working so good. So basically you turn the bike on, it runs and then it turns off. So it seems to be fine at higher speeds, so there's a problem in the idle. So right here we have the Airbox, and basically we're going to take this guy out. We've got 4 bolts, one towards the front here, 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 and here. And basically everything here, and you have your battery, of course, which is right in this compartment, positive, your negative, okay? You have all these connections and everything. Just go ahead and remove all the pieces that you need to remove. Under here, you have the bottom of the Airbox, and basically you have the tubes with these are just slide-ons, so you don't have to worry about removing these special types of clamps here. So just go ahead and remove these. Now what I'm doing is you want to check these, making sure that they're not cracked or brittle or something, because if there's too much heat or something, that could be part of your problem. So here we go, we have these guys. Everything looks good here. So everything can be disconnected and then the whole unit just comes right off. But you have to take everything off from the bottom. And you do not have to worry about taking these guys apart right here. Leave those on. Okay? Then your air filter comes off, which is on that side. And the air filter comes off with these clips that just slide up. The clips slide straight up. Okay, let me show you what goes right there. So then you have your air filter. It goes on like this and it slides up and down. It goes like that, straight down. And then you have the clips. The clips just basically get pulled straight up from both sides. Just like that. Now, what had happened before is I had the air filter was clean on this side, which was great. And you can see this unit here. Make sure everything's nice and clean. Just wipe it up and you're good to go there. So basically you have, this is where the air intake was. This side looked fine. This side was extremely black. Very, very dirty. So then what I wound up doing with the air filter is using a brush like this, getting nice in there, getting way deep, and brushing it out. What you could do is use air filter cleaner from K&N. This is a washable air filter. So for this particular air filter, with all the dirt being on this side, you loosen everything up here. From this side, you can go ahead and flush water right through it. Flush it at high pressure. So keep everything going in one direction so you don't get anything going back into the unit. Then brush it out, keep flushing, brush it out, give it a good dry, and then go ahead and give it the K&N filter coating, and then you can go ahead and put it back on. Okay, with everything disconnected, basically you have your fuel goes right in here, your air intake goes right in here, you have your fuel injectors, and you have your ignition coils, which go back right in this spot here. So if you take a look back here, try and get a nice close-up view here. What's going on there is we have some dirt in there, if you can see the blackness. So as I turn the throttle, what you'll notice is you can see the dirt. There's a rim of dirt. So on the walls you have some dirt, and also on the flaps you have some. So what I'm going to do is going to wipe that clean. And if you have the bike apart for some time, what you want to do is definitely put a rag in each one of these. You don't want to get any contamination, drop a bolt, drop something inside there. So definitely keep these covered up. So you definitely want to clean these up afterwards. And you have your ignition coils. They go right up here. And to get these guys off, remove the plug right here, and then go ahead and lift up the gasket that's it's a kind of a seal like a skirt, and spray some WD-40, and you can just twist the unit around slowly. I took my time on this, so I sprayed a little bit today, yesterday, and so on. And then I wound up just pulling the ignition coil out completely. I'll show you those in a second. So keep these guys covered. Let's go ahead and wipe down the cylinder here. This is where your air intake is coming in. You don't want nothing falling in. There we go, looking much better. So what I'm going to do next is there's some residue on here. What I'm going to do is get some degreaser, spray it onto the rag, and just go ahead and wipe this down here. Another thing you want to check is, before you put the airbox back on, is to blow through the 3 tubes here and make sure there's no obstruction, anything in the way there, before you put the airbox back on the motorcycle. So as long as the tubes are not cracked, they're not split, you're pretty much good to go here. And just take a visual inspection, clean anything up that shouldn't be there. So I have my degreaser on my rag here, and I'm just cleaning the inside here. Make sure it's nice. The other thing you want to check is that you don't have slack on this cable, otherwise, or that it's kind of torn at all. Otherwise, you need to replace that cable there. So get in there good. Make sure the sucker's nice and clean afterwards. My suspicion with this bike is that the air cleaner was the culprit, so we'll see when I put it back together. The other thing I'm doing is replacing the spark plugs, and I'll show you those in a sec. I want to go in there and get really good, because it takes a little time to get to all this. You want to take the upper fairings completely off, and the battery. The other thing with this motorcycle is you have the so basically right here you have the fuel pump. The fuel pump pulls up and the hose comes right here, kind of bends down a little, and then comes right back up, and it comes right here to the fuel line right here. So this motorcycle has no fuel filter. So I double checked the service manual and actually called BMW themselves. So there is no fuel filter, you know, because if there's on cars you have fuel filters, those could cause a problem too. So all right, now I've cleaned these guys. Take a closer look. So we have no residue on the walls, and the butterflies are also clean. So we have everything's looking good here. Everything seems to function properly. So here we have the ignition coils and the spark plugs. With the ignition coils, I just have them out right now, and what I got is the voltmeter set on ohms, so I can actually just check the resistance. So I've connected to the center connection here, and all we're doing is we just want to compare the difference in values of resistance between the 2 points. So I'm on my center connection here, and I have the wire attached like so. As I go ahead and hold it to the end, we've got 30 meg, 17 meg, 22 meg, so then the voltmeter is averaging out at, let's just say, about 18 to 19 meg or so. Then I'll just compare that with this guy here. I just want to see that they're very similar, because if you had, for example, running on one cylinder or something, this unit could be bad. But the motorcycle is running. So this guy's going at about 17 megs. This unit here was at about maybe around 18 megs. So they're fairly close, not a big deal. And again, these are the skirts that I talked about to loosen the unit. So you kind of lift the skirt up here, spray some WD-40, and just kind of twist this guy softly. Because if you twist them hard, you don't want to break this unit. I'm sure it's pretty expensive. The other thing you want to look for is look down the center and make sure that it's nice and basically shiny. You don't want burnt residue on there. Okay, that's not a good sign. That's a sign of sparking. You don't want that. So here we have the spark plugs. The number on the spark plugs is DCP-R8E. Okay, now let me try and get us a little closer here. So with the spark plugs, we have new spark plugs going in, and I'll try and hold it there at that angle there. Okay, these new ones have been pre-gapped compared to these old ones. You can see these old ones are fairly used up. So obviously this motorcycle has about 80,000 miles on it, so I don't know when the last time the service was done on this. Okay. The other thing is, when you pull these out, I label them R and L, so for right side of the motorcycle or left side, so that they correspond with the side. And you can do the same thing here with like tape or something. The other thing is, when you put the spark plugs in, go ahead and put some anti-seize on it, and then go ahead and tighten the spark plugs in. You want to look up the pounds per square inch. What I tend to do is use wrist pressure. Not arm pressure, wrist pressure, so not too tight. Okay, so the other thing with the Airbox is you want to look inside. You want to make sure there's no cracks or no deterioration from heat or anything like that. Clean. So now I have the anti-seize loaded up on there. You can see where it's brown right there. Keep that from the spark point. And you want to use a spark plug socket, because they have a little rubber tip on there that keeps the spark plug from falling down. And never use a power tool to put this sucker in. Just finger tight to start. Go by hand. Until it's stiff with your hand, then put the wrench on it. So you don't want to go a lot of pressure like this, just wrist pressure, because you want to feel it get tighter. Because it's tight right now. Just slowly going, just very little. Good. Next, you put the ignition coils back in. Sure these ignition coils are nice and clean. You don't want foreign material inside there. You should not have any tears on here. This is what keeps everything clean. So I got my ignition coil in, and I'm just going to go ahead and put the ignition plug in. Okay. Same thing for the next one. Sure, the ignition coil is clean. And then this guy goes in just like that. And this little notch, this just pulls up this way, the center notch, and that allows you to disengage the sucker. So always check everything twice. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have all the hoses on the bottom of the airbox that need to be connected. So you have to double check every single thing. Okay? Alright, the bike is purring. She's sounding really, really good. This is a trick that you can use to adjust the throttle, so it helps keep the revs up. I want to pay a special attention to this airbox. In other words, this guy here where these hoses go, when you put everything back together, you can forget where they go. So this is very helpful to see this, because I was looking for this as I put the bike back together. So anyways, bike's running good, battery's attached, my charging cable is here. It's all plugged. I'm going to put the fairings back on. So we're all set there. And this guy's just going to stick out like this, so we can use him whenever we need to. Okay. Alright, fairings going back on.